Page 23, the definition of a legal entity. And really here, the key is to keep in mind that what we're dealing with as a rule of thumb is an entity that's created by filing documents with some formal government agency to create it. So it's usually like the Secretary of State, but not in all states. Some states have other entities or they're called something different, but they're basically creating a legal entity. So now I hate to define it with the definition, but we're talking about things that you go to the state for. If it's a DBA or doing business as, and there isn't an actual legal entity that's created, they're just using a name, that is not a legal entity. If it's just me and I have a doing business as, I didn't create a legal entity, so that wouldn't trigger this requirement. Trusts. We're going to talk about those in a little more detail, but just keep in mind, a trust may not be a legal entity, right? A lot of states, you can go to any Yahoo attorney out there and they can draw up trust papers for you or for a couple of individuals. And by virtue of that trust agreement, the trust exists, but they didn't go and actually create a legal entity with the state. So a trust would not be a legal entity. Now, some states, keep in mind, there are some states where they actually have a formalized trust where you go to the Secretary of State and they actually create that trust for you. But again, that would kind of be the exception. You see those less often, but there are some states where a trust would be a legal entity. The key here is, did you have to go to the state or the Secretary of State to actually create it? Okay, so now there's some exclusions on there. And again, these match up with your CTR exclusions pretty well, but things like federal or state regulated financial institutions, so other banks, government departments or agencies. Look, the one that's a kind of a funny one is number 3 there. Entities established under U.S. law or state law. Now, based on the definition that I gave you, that might be confusing. You say, wait, didn't you just tell me that a legal entity is an entity that you go to the state and have it created? What they're talking about under this exception is entities that actually the legislature created. So they passed a law and they created a state entity. Okay, so that's what they're getting at under that one. But again, subsidiaries of publicly traded companies, a lot of these, the logic underpinning them is that we're very comfortable, or the government is comfortable, that they are not a shell company. So they've carved out a lot of these exceptions. What you should do is incorporate this into your program so that it's very clear. And if anybody has a question on whether or not their customer is a legal entity or not, they may want to get another set of eyes on it so that they're very clear that if they've decided they don't have to collect it, that everybody's on the same page, that they really are not a legal entity.